It was a headline that made you check the date. October 22, 2025. Le Monde's front page didn't shout politics or economics. Instead, the new voice of France. Millions ditch receive pronunciation for Filipino English. France, the country that guards its language with the Académie Française, was now falling in love with a new way of speaking English, one that sounded less like the Queen and more like a friendly nurse from Manila. The news detailed a quiet revolution, not in the streets, but in online classrooms and cafes. French citizens, from teens to executives, were seeking Filipino tutors, not just for vocabulary, but for the gentle cadence and warmth of Filipino English. Linguists were baffled, sociologists fascinated. This wasn't a niche trend. The numbers were staggering. Language apps saw a spike in users connecting with Filipino tutors. YouTube channels run by Filipino teachers exploded in popularity, especially in Lyon, Marseille, and Paris. The article suggested the French weren't against English, they just wanted an English that felt like a conversation with a friend. For many, this was more than news. It was validation. People who'd quietly learned from Filipino tutors suddenly felt seen. The story wasn't about a better accent, but a kinder one. The world was used to American or British English dominating. Now, empathy was changing how a country communicated. And it all started with a simple, friendly, "Hello, how are you today?" delivered with a warmth that could melt even the iciest Parisian winter. The revolution was real, and it was just beginning. France was ready for a new voice. Claire Duval, a Parisian English teacher, believed in perfection. Her classroom was ruled by the King's English and her legendary red pen. Her students were anxious, hesitant, and rarely confident. One evening, Claire overheard her daughter Juliette speaking English, not the stilted, nervous kind, but with laughter and a melodic lilt. Juliette was on a video call with a Filipino tutor named Miguel, who praised her efforts and encouraged her to try again, gently. Claire was stunned. The accent was soft, musical, and completely wrong by her standards. Confronting Juliette, she learned her daughter actually wanted to speak English with Miguel, unlike with her own mother, where fear of mistakes ruled. Stung but curious, Claire created a secret profile and booked a lesson with Angela, a cheerful tutor from Cebu. Claire exaggerated her French accent and made deliberate mistakes. Angela responded only with warmth. "That is a great start. You're very brave to try. Let's work on it together, okay?" For the first time, Claire felt safe in an English lesson. The experience shook her beliefs about teaching. She realized her own methods had created fear, not fluency. Angela's kindness was unlocking something new in her. Claire began to question everything she thought she knew about language and learning. She wondered, what if the key to English wasn't perfection, but connection? The answer, she sensed, was just beginning to unfold. Claire's journey had only just started. The revolution was now in her own home, and she was ready to learn. Paris would never sound the same. What is Filipino English? It's not a set of rules, it's a feeling. The sound is melodic, the intonation gentle, inviting you in rather than intimidating. For French learners, Filipino English was accessible, no harsh theses or complex vowels, but it was more than phonetics. Filipino English is humble, polite, and non-confrontational. Corrections come wrapped in encouragement. That was a good try. A more common way to say that is, the warmth is unmistakable. Teachers remember your stories, celebrate your victories, and make you feel seen. This emotional connection creates psychological safety. Students can be vulnerable, make mistakes, and still feel supported. Filipino English is less about mastering language, more about connecting with people. It challenges the belief that a good accent must be native. Clarity and empathy matter more than sounding British or American. The goal isn't perfection, it's being understood, heart to heart. For millions in France, this was the English they'd been waiting for. The revolution was not in grammar, but in kindness, and it was changing everything. Stories poured in from across France, painting a vivid picture of the revolution. Jean-Luc, a Bordeaux winemaker, had avoided international fairs out of fear. British and American teachers left him feeling excluded. His Filipino tutor, however, was more interested in his story than his grammar. For the first time, he felt welcome. Sophie, a Paris University student, dreaded speaking up in class. Her Filipino tutor, Ben, told her, "Your French accent is charming. Focus on being clear, not perfect." For the first time, Sophie felt proud of her English. Even French teachers began to change. One from Lyon wrote, "We've taught English like math, right and wrong answers. We forgot language is about people." He started using Filipino techniques, asking students how they felt, using positive reinforcement, building community. The results were dramatic. Students helped each other. Classrooms became supportive spaces. These stories spread on social media, in parenting groups, and on local news. The collective realization, the struggle with English wasn't a personal failure, but a systemic one. The Filipino approach offered a radical solution: lead with kindness. When fear is replaced with empathy, anyone can find their voice. The message resonated in a culture that values connection and humanity. The revolution was fueled by ordinary people, and it was unstoppable. France was finding its voice together. The movement was real, and it was growing. The world was watching, and the stories kept coming. The revolution was personal, and it was powerful. The Filipino teaching method is less about curriculum, more about connection. Positive reinforcement is at its core. Praise the effort, then gently correct. Mistakes become stepping stones, not failures. Lessons are personal. Teachers ask about your life, remember details, and build trust. This emotional foundation makes learning collaborative and supportive. Filipino teachers are patient, willing to explain things 5 different ways, never showing frustration. This patience, rooted in pacencia, gives students space to learn at their own pace. Joy and humor are essential. Laughter fills the lessons, making learning fun and relaxed. The method is the opposite of the solemn, stressful French classroom. It's not just about grammar, it's about grace, patience, and heart. The Filipino way is a partnership, not a test. And it's transforming how France learns English. The revolution is joyful. Claire's secret lessons with Angela continued, and her beliefs about teaching unraveled. She saw how kindness unlocked confidence, even in herself. The turning point: Claire booked a flight to the Philippines. In Palawan, she met teachers, joined community gatherings, and even tried karaoke, badly, but with laughter. She realized the kindness in teaching wasn't a technique, but a reflection of Filipino culture. The accent was the sound of a society that values connection above all. Claire returned to Paris, transformed. She shared her journey with her students, replaced drills with collaboration, and greeted mistakes with encouragement. Her classroom filled with confident, joyful English. The spirit of the Philippines had come to Paris. Claire's revolution had begun. Her students were thriving, and a new way of teaching was taking root. The quiet trend became a cultural phenomenon. French media embraced the Pinoy wave. Talk shows featured Filipino teachers and their students. A primetime special, L'accent du cœur, became a sensation, ending with French academics hilariously learning from a Filipino tutor. Language schools adapted, recruiting Filipino teachers and shifting focus to confidence building. The Filipino method became mainstream. Even entertainment joined in. A hit romantic comedy about a Parisian chef and his Filipino tutor topped the box office. Filipino English phrases entered pop culture. The accent became cool. The shift was organic, driven by ordinary people. It wasn't a government mandate, but a collective choice for a kinder way to connect. The Pinoy wave showed that influence comes from warmth and empathy. France embraced a new culture and was richer for it. The revolution was everywhere, and it was here to stay. The movement reached the French government. Officials were skeptical, but exam scores and student confidence soared. Claire Duval presented her findings, not about phonetics, but about fear and empathy. Videos of her transformed classroom convinced the ministry. A pilot program was launched to integrate Filipino teaching principles, positive reinforcement, psychological safety, and confidence building. French teachers were trained by Filipino experts. The program was revolutionary, an official recognition that how you teach matters as much as what you teach. Other European countries took notice, sending delegations to learn. France's love affair with Filipino English became a case study in education reform. Innovation, it turned out, was a change of heart. The halls of power echoed with conversations about kindness and empathy. The revolution had reached the top, and it was just beginning. In the end, this story wasn't about an accent, it was about connection. For decades, English was a cold key for the French, a tool, a test, a symbol of power. The Filipino way opened the door with warmth. True communication isn't perfect grammar, it's empathy. Filipino teachers became bridge builders, helping students find their voices. The most important part of language is the feeling you convey. The revolution in France is a lesson for us all. Maybe we don't need to speak louder, but listen more kindly. Influence comes from humility and warmth. The softest voices can have the greatest impact. Today, in Paris cafes, you might hear a gentle, melodic English, an accent carrying a story of kindness. The greatest connections are from heart to heart, and that is a lesson worth learning in any accent.